I think the Iranians actually were the real author of the art of the deal.
Oh,
because this is a great deal for them. And
speak on it.
I think about what this is, because you're right. I mean, this is not, people need to be clear, this is not a peace deal.
Yeah.
There is no peace, right? This is an extension of a ceasefire that they basically said we're going to go back to the way things were in terms of conflict before the conflict began. But what does this mean to the American people when they're like, well, what does it mean for me? Here's what it means. We've seen how gas prices have still gone up over $1.50 since this conflict began. We've seen how inflation is now at a 3-year high. We see how this deal that is now out is saying that the Iranians will get access to at least $300 billion for reconstruction. We've seen how this war has now costed the American people over $200 billion since this war has first begun. We have seen how the Iranians still control the Strait of Hormuz. We see how there has been no measure of regime change that is taking place in terms of ideology from Iran. And we see how we still do not have access to the highly enriched uranium for Iran. So I don't know what this is, and I think it is very telling that the president has not released the details of this deal. The reason is because he's not proud of the details of the deal. And I think we will continue to see how that shows itself in the days ahead.
Governor, you're in Annapolis. We in D.C. are still reeling. You probably heard the fireworks late Sunday night, the flyover that shook the entire city. This UFC
they were flying low.
They were flying low. They woke up the dogs, as we like to say. But this UFC fight that happened, one of the central tenets of it was the use of the military. Yep. It seemed to be very much a military rally, almost in a propaganda sense. And you've done something very successful as governor. I think you're one of the few Democrats that actually understands young men. You're a military veteran. I've seen you go in full pads to Maryland Terrapins football practice. You strap it on and get in there, which is great to see as a former football player myself, albeit not as good as you.
And I'm in pain the next day. And I'm in full pain the next day.
That's called age.
That's called age.
But I want you to talk to a little bit to young men out there that see the chest beating and the chest thumping of the military at that UFC fight, where the military was used as a prop. They were essentially used in a political manner in a way they're not supposed to be. Talk about that a little bit for young men out there that might see that and be inspired that this is what America's supposed to be, the chest-thumping military of the UFC fight, because it very much is not.
Yeah, and that this is what masculinity is supposed to look like, and it is not. I see how the president likes to talk about the military and how how we're going to use the military as an example of what it means to be a warrior or a protector. But he's also doing things like cutting funding for the VA. That he's also doing things like having our military going deploy to wars that nobody understands. What it is the mission, what it is that we're trying to accomplish, what is the exit strategy. That we are now seeing how these men and women, we've lost over a dozen military personnel in this war in Iran. Over a dozen men and women who now are not going to come back home because they were willing to sacrifice on behalf of this country. And to know that that is happening while we're also cutting benefits for our military veterans, that doesn't show me that you respect the military. That doesn't show me that you respect the men and women in uniform, and giving them free tickets to a UFC fight to celebrate your birthday. To think that that somehow is speaking to us or showing us that you see us, it is not just deeply disrespectful, it's actually pretty backwards. That the way you want to support military and military personnel is by making sure that you are taking care of our families, making sure that you're honoring the promises that you made to us, and make sure you're not asking us to go fight wars that none of us understand that what we're actually getting out of this.